Somewhere right now, a man is lying on his deathbed, and with his last breath, he isn't asking for more money. He isn't asking for the house or the car or the followers. He's asking for one thing only, one thing he can never get back: more time. And here's the part that should terrify you. You have more time than he does right now, today, this exact hour. And you are spending it exactly the way he did, waiting for Monday, waiting for the right mood, waiting for a sign. You don't need a sign. You are the sign. Because right now, while you're sitting there, comfortable, scrolling, stalling, your life is quietly running out in the background, like a tab you forgot was open, and nobody is going to close it for you. So let me say the thing nobody else will say to you today. You are wasting your life. There's an old clockmaker in a small town, we'll call him Elias, who spent 40 years repairing watches for other people. Every single watch that came through his door, he fixed with total precision. Gears aligned, springs tightened, not a second lost. But Elias never wore a watch himself. When people asked him why, he'd smile and say, "I don't need to see the time. I have plenty of it." One winter morning, Elias didn't open his shop. His neighbors found him in his chair, his tools still laid out on the bench, a watch left half repaired. He had spent his entire life perfecting other people's time and never once checked his own. That story isn't really about a clockmaker. It's about you. You've got a job that eats your mornings, a phone that eats your evenings, a version of someday that eats your dreams. And in between all of that, you tell yourself you have plenty of time. But nobody has plenty of time. Time isn't a well that refills. It's a candle that burns whether you're paying attention to it or not. Here's the brutal math nobody wants to do. If you live to 80, you get about 29,200 days. That's it. Not one day more guaranteed. And if you're 25 right now, you've already burned through roughly 9,000 of them. Most of those days gone into routines you don't even remember living. That's not a guilt trip. That's a wake-up call. Because the moment you understand that your days are numbered and shrinking, something shifts. You stop treating time like a currency you can borrow against the future. You start treating it like the one asset you can never, ever get refunded. The lie that's been running your life without your permission is later. Later, you'll start the business. Later, you'll ask her out. Later, you'll get in shape, write the book, learn the skill, leave the job that's been draining you since the day you took it. Later has become your favorite word, and it's also the most expensive word in the English language, because later doesn't cost you money, it costs you years. Think about the airport. You've seen it. Someone sprinting through the terminal because they cut it too close, boarding pass crumpled in their fist, sweat on their forehead, praying the gate hasn't closed. That image is almost comical when it's happening to a stranger, but that is exactly what most people are doing with their entire life. They're sprinting toward a gate they should have walked to calmly 10 years ago, except this gate doesn't wait, doesn't announce a delay, and doesn't reopen once it shuts. The people you admire, the ones who built something, who changed something, who became somebody, they didn't have more time than you. They just stopped waiting for later. They looked at later for what it really is, a coward's way of saying not now and maybe never. Ask yourself honestly, what has later cost you already? The apology you didn't give, the opportunity you let a more decisive person take, the version of you that could have existed 2 years ago if you'd started then instead of starting now. Later is not a plan. Later is an excuse wearing a disguise. Nobody wakes up one day and decides to waste their life. It doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. It happens in inches. It happens in the extra 20 minutes in bed, the show you didn't need to watch, the argument you replayed in your head for the 40th time instead of building something. Comfort doesn't announce itself as the enemy. It shows up disguised as rest, as safety, as "I deserve this." And you do deserve rest, but there's a difference between rest that refuels a fire and comfort that quietly puts it out. Picture two farmers, side by side, same land, same rain, same sun. One wakes before dawn, plants with intention, pulls the weeds nobody sees. The other tells himself he'll start next season because this season isn't quite right. 10 years pass. One farmer has an orchard. The other still has a field of good intentions. The land didn't choose winners. The days chose, because every day is a vote for the person you're becoming. And if you keep voting for comfort, don't be shocked when your life looks exactly like comfort, small, safe, and forgettable. You were not built to be forgettable.
Let's be clear about what wasting your life actually means. It doesn't mean you're lazy. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you're trading your one irreplaceable resource for things that don't ask for a receipt. You already know what your version of wasted time looks like. Maybe it's the scroll that turns into an hour. Maybe it's the relationship you stay in because leaving is harder than staying quiet. Maybe it's the dream you downgraded so it would hurt less if it failed. Here's what should scare you more than failure. Regret has no age limit, but opportunity does. You can chase a dream at 50, but you cannot get back the version of you that could have chased it at 25, unburdened, unafraid, uninjured by 25 extra years of talking yourself out of it. The tragedy isn't that people fail. The tragedy is that most people never actually try. They just simulate trying long enough to feel like they did something, while the clock keeps moving without their permission. Think about a woman named Mira who spent 11 years telling everyone at every family dinner that she was working on opening a small bakery. 11 years of talking about flour and ovens and a shop on the corner of her street. 11 years of everyone nodding politely because they'd heard it so many times it stopped sounding like a dream and started sounding like background noise. Then her mother got sick, and in the space of one hospital waiting room, at 2 in the morning, Mira understood something that 11 years of comfortable talking never taught her. That a dream you only speak about is not a dream. It's a story you tell to avoid living it. She opened that bakery 4 months later, not because the conditions were perfect, they weren't. She opened it because she finally understood that working on it and doing it are two completely different lives, and only one of them ends in an actual bakery. You have a version of Mira's 11 years happening right now in whatever area of your life you've quietly parked in working on it. Be honest about what that thing is. You already know. So, what do you actually do with this? Not someday, today. First, name the thief. Be specific. Not "I waste time" in general, but the exact habit stealing your hours, the app, the person, the routine. You cannot fight a thief you refuse to name. Second, protect 1 hour like it's sacred, not the leftover hour at the end of an exhausted day. A real hour, early, before the world gets its hands on you. 1 hour a day invested in the one thing that would actually change your life in 5 years is 365 hours a year. That's 9 full work weeks spent building instead of drifting. Third, make one decision today that your future self will thank you for. Send the message, start the page, close the tab on the relationship, the job, the habit that's been quietly draining you. You don't need the whole staircase. You need one step, taken today, not tomorrow. Fourth, stop measuring your life by how busy you look and start measuring it by what you're actually building. Busy is not the same as alive. A hamster is busy. A hamster is not going anywhere. This isn't about burning yourself out chasing every minute like a maniac. It's about refusing to let your one life quietly slip through your fingers while you tell yourself there's plenty left. Fifth, stop negotiating with your excuses. Excuses are the most convincing lawyer you'll ever meet because they know exactly what you want to hear. You're tired. You've earned a break. You can start Monday. That lawyer has won every case against you for years, and look where it's gotten you. Fire the lawyer. You don't need a defense. You need a verdict, and the verdict is that today counts. And sixth, surround the goal with people who won't let you quietly disappear into comfort. Mira didn't open that bakery alone. She told one friend out loud with a date attached to it, because a dream spoken with a deadline behaves completely differently than a dream whispered with no accountability. Say your goal out loud to someone who will actually ask you about it next week. That single act will do more for you than another hour of quiet planning ever could. Go back to Elias the clockmaker. Imagine if he, just once, had picked up one of those watches and put it on his own wrist. Imagine if he'd looked at his own time the way he looked at everyone else's, with urgency, with precision, with respect. That's the invitation in front of you right now. Not tomorrow, not when things calm down, not when you feel ready, because ready is a feeling and feelings are unreliable, but decisions are permanent. You were not given this life to spend it half asleep. You were not given these years to trade them for comfort you won't even remember in 5 years. Somewhere out there is a version of you, sharper, stronger, unafraid, and that version is waiting on the other side of a decision you keep postponing. The only difference between the life you have and the life you want is the number of days you're willing to stop wasting starting now. You don't get a bonus round. You don't get a rematch. This right here, right now is the only shot you get. So stop waiting for later. Later already came and went 100 times, and every time you let it. Not this time. If this hits something in you, don't just nod and scroll away. That's exactly the habit we just talked about. Do one thing today, one decision, 1 hour reclaimed. That's how it starts. And if you want more of this, more truth, more fire, more reasons to stop wasting the only life you've got, subscribe to Joshward, hit that bell, and come back tomorrow, because tomorrow we go again. Your time is already moving. The only question left is, what are you finally going to do with it?